Hi guys, so today we're going to do some glass etching. I'm not a pro at this, I've actually been doing this for a couple days. And we're going to see how this turns out. So first we're just going to grab a glass. I used one from my cupboard downstairs because I don't want to waste any money right now. And then we're going to grab some alcohol wipes. And we're going to grab a paintbrush. And then for the gouache etching, I actually use the Armor Edge, which is pretty good. You can get it at Michael's, or you can actually get it at Hobby Lobby, unfortunately. You can get it on Amazon. You can also get it at Walmart. And then obviously a stencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the alcohol wipes first. And I'm just going to wipe down the glass so it's nice and clean. Apparently it also helps the Armor Edge to go into the glass to actually start doing the etching process. So we're going to give it a good clean all over before I stick down the stencil. Now when you put the stencil down, you want to make sure that you maybe use some tape. Because once you put the Armor Edge on, if you get it all over the glass that you're using, it's just gonna start doing its process. There's not really gonna be any way to recover from that. Give me 1 second, just trying to take it off of the backing. And when you take it off of the backing, you just want to make sure that you get every little piece, because stuff like this is just gonna come off. And then you're going to try and patch it all back together again. So you just need to be careful. Alright. And then this, you want to stick wherever you want to put it on your glass. Obviously you want to make it centralized or however you're doing it. Now, I always go and turn it inwards and then place it on the glass, kind of like this. So that way it just sits nicely on the glass. And then I spend maybe 30 seconds just kind of pushing everything down, making sure that everything is nice and flush, because you don't want to have any gaps where it'll bleed. Bleeding does unfortunately happen sometimes, which is why I'm using my own glasses, because I'm still learning, I'm still practicing, I'm trying to figure this out. Okay. Once I've got that down, I can go ahead and lift off the backing transfer paper. But again, you just want to make sure to not lift up any of the lettering, because if you do, it's not going to sit right, it's not going to look good. And you want to make sure that you do, when you take your stencil apart, you do it in reverse, because otherwise it's not going to print on how you want it to if you did it the normal way. Alright, so that's come off. Now unfortunately, in the process of unpicking all my stuff, I did lose a little dot, which is annoying, but thankfully this isn't going to a customer or anyone. And you want to push down any bubbles, because if you have bubbles in this, it's not going to be good, because you don't want to have anything bleed through those bubbles. And the main thing you want to look for is the writing. So on some of the others that I've done, the bleeding that's happened has been, I don't know if you can see it right here, where the L has bled to the bottom of the lemon, which sucks. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. So what I did was I reprinted the stencil, because it happened twice. And when I reprinted it, I actually made the gap between the wording and the bottom of the lemon just a little bit bigger, to see if that would reduce down some of the bleeding. So let's push this bubble out. And then hopefully we're good to go. I'm going to grab my tape. It doesn't need to be like a lot of tape. My tape has decided to get stuck. There we go. Let me grab a different tape real quick. Okay. I actually use Gorilla Tape just because, you know, I use that for painting. It stops paint from bleeding, so let's see how that works. But it doesn't need to be a lot of tape. I tend to just use it around the edges just a little bit, just so that if when I'm brushing, when I go closer to the edge, I don't need to panic and be like, oh my god, I just got armor edge on my actual glass, because then my glass is ruined. Okay. But then also just make sure when you put the tape on that you don't tape up part of the stencil that you're trying to use, because again, that would suck. It would make it really bad. Okay. That works. One last piece for the bottom. Oh no, two last pieces. I missed the top. Okay. Alright, so that's good to go. And you always want to make sure with your armor etch that you've given it a good shake, which I did already, because otherwise you're going to get lots of blotchiness and it's just not going to look right. So, the armor etch does say to leave it on for like a minute, but I actually leave it on for about 10 to 15 minutes. It depends on the level of etching that you want it to do. Now you don't need to waste really any of your armor edge. You can put on quite a bit. You don't need to go too thin on it, because if you go too thin, it's not going to do what you need it to do. And at the end, you can scrape it off. You can put it back in your tub. You don't need to worry about wasting it. Now I usually put like a thin coat on because you want to get it on there pretty quick. Otherwise, it's going to start etching at different rates. So I put a thin coat on, and then I will come back to it once I've got everything covered like I have. Now I can come back and start adding extra. It's got quite a nice coat on it, which is good. Now I don't tend to brush, I tend to dab. Because with brushing, you stand the chance of the brush going underneath the stencil, and then you will ruin it because the armor edge would be under the stencil and it would have bled. Alright, so as you can see, I've got quite a lot on there. I'm going to let it do its thing. It's 12 exactly, and we're going to come back in 10 minutes. Okay guys, so it's actually been 9 minutes. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to take this to the sink. Well actually I'm going to go ahead and wipe off as much of it as possible first, just using the paintbrush, and then I'm going to go to the sink and I'm going to wash it. You don't want to waste much of this, if I'm honest, so the more that you can get into your pot again, the better, so that you don't just keep wasting it all, because this stuff is about $15 a jar. It does last a pretty long time, which is good. And I'm going to go ahead and rinse this, and then I'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, and we are back. So I've gone and washed off everything. I used the brush as I was washing it to kind of get in and wash everything. Now I'm going to take the tape off. And like I said, guys, this is literally the third time that I've done it, so I'm not an expert. This is just trial and error. That's why I'm using my own products instead of going out buying expensive glass that, you know, I can't really afford to waste. Sometimes the stencil does get a little bit more stuck on, so it just takes a second to come off. Just make sure when you do it, you don't obviously squeeze the glass, because you don't want it to smash in your hand. Alright. And it seems to be a lot better this time, which makes me really, really happy, because I just wanted it to work well. All right. And then just want to get all of the stuff off the middle of the letters. And then what you want to make sure you do is just wipe it down with soap and water. And there we go. Not too bad for a third attempt. Let me know if you guys want any more content and just hit that subscribe button.